All right, so part two of this bits, and again, this is my progression. This isn't what all trainers do, but I find that it works. It's worked for most of the horses that I've started. If I have the opportunity to ride them for any length of time, so my own horses that I'm going to keep for a year or two, I'll progress from that snaffle bit after maybe a year of riding in a snaffle bit or more. Some horses you never ever need to come out of a snaffle bit, but I'm going to eventually progress my horses up into a shank bit, ideally down the road into a spade bit, once I get to where I need to be riding with one hand. So whether I'm roping or again working gaits on horseback or anything that you want to free that hand up to do, it's nice to be able to just neck rein and get the same kind of response with a lot less pressure. To do that, I'll go from a snaffle bit into this hackamore. Okay, so this is a Bosel hackamore, just rawhide with a hanger. Again, I use horsehair reins and the Macadie for leading or working on the ground. The way that this works now is it puts pressure, basically this noseband just puts pressure right on that nerve on the top of their nose. There's a little bit of pressure that's distributed down underneath their jaw, but not a lot. So again, it's fairly gentle on a young horse, and it does allow me to kind of leave their mouth alone, and I'm not pulling on their corners of their mouth or their tongue or anything. And I'll ride my colts for at least a year in just a Bosel like this and get them so where I can respond, get them neck reining. I have the opportunity still to correct them. So if I need to take a hold of a hindquarter or something, I can still do some lateral movement or plow rein, direct rein, without pulling on their mouth, just off of that noseband. Okay, from there, the progression is going to be into a shank bit. Okay, so shank is exactly what it sounds like. So it's got, the reins are connected to the shank that comes off of the, basically where the mouthpiece meets. This is just a solid mouthpiece. You can have broken mouthpiece like you saw in the snaffles. This has got a little roller in it. All that does is let the horse will play with that and kind of keep him loose in the jaw. But this does now start to provide some operational leverage, if you will. So by that, if you go back to high school physics, we've got basically a fulcrum is right at that chin strap, and the shanks are going to provide that leverage. So when I pick up on this, it's going to rotate around this chin strap if it's adjusted properly. It's going to push pressure down on their tongue and inside their mouth. That weight's also going to travel up the bridle itself and put pressure on the top of their poll. So there's 3 or 4 things all happening at once here, in the corners of their mouth, the chin strap, the tongue, and on the poll. So as you can appreciate, that on a colt would be a lot of information all at once, and he's probably not going to enjoy that very much. So this is, a couple years into training before I would ever progress to this. And again, the intent is for me to be able to just have them very light on the response off of the hackamore, so I can just ride neck rein, one-handed, and rope, get the same kind of response, if not a better response. The thing to remember with these shank bits is you can't correct the horse. If you need to take a hold of them to disengage a hindquarter or something, get some lateral flexion, you can't just pull on that like you can on a snaffle bit, because now this is twisting in his face, putting all kinds of weird pressure inside their mouth, and they'll just start throwing their head. They're not going to respond to that very well at all. So if you need to be doing any kind of correcting on a stop or a turnaround or rollbacks or lead changes or anything, you don't do it in this. You need to go back to a snaffle bit or a Bosel hackamore, get the corrections, and then progress back up to the shank bit. Then the continued progression, eventually, after a few years of riding, they'll get into a little more serious, I guess, of a shank bit. This one's not that much. It's got a little higher port on the mouthpiece. All this does, a lot of people think that that's really aggressive because of that high port, but this provides relief for their tongue, so they can actually get away from that flat, straight across mouthpiece. So the bigger the port, the more relief is. You just got to make sure that chin strap's adjusted properly, that you're not turning that thing and rotating it all the way around inside their mouths, which shouldn't be possible if your equipment's adjusted right. So this, again, a bridle with just kind of a, that's a custom shank bit, the ported mouthpiece, Rommel reins, which I really enjoy, when I'm riding cow horses. And the chains on there just provide a little bit of weight to keep that horse breaking at the pole and collecting nicely. And then the final product, which takes years to get to, would be the same idea. This is a Garcia spade bit with a big mouthpiece, spade itself, and a cricket or a roller. The horses will play with that, keep them real loose. But by the time they get to this bit, there is no corrections required whatsoever. They're basically just going to carry this. It's heavy, it'll keep their head down, and they're going to be responding just off a real light pressure on your legs, your feet, and you know, some neck rating cues. Okay, you got any questions about any of that, just fire me a direct message on the Instagram, and next time we'll ride some and show you how they work on the horses.